Okay, so I stopped and restarted the Twitch stream and the recording stream. So, what I'm about to do is hopefully switch over to a new version of things. All right, and I'm going to probably break things as I go in here, which is going to be great because I started a new version and I managed to break it all. Um, Okay, need to try to get the reason why my collision is not working. All right, I'm gonna go. Let's see. I'll kind of what I'll do is I'll start from there then. All right, I'll step through. I will create something that will do a collision. I'm gonna start with a collision. We'll work our way there from there. All right. So I've got this main camera of an empty space, and this is an empty scene called, what did I call it? Quick Tree. That seemed like the thing to do. Call it Quick Tree. It's got nothing but the main camera in. Now the assets I'm going to use in here, and I wanted to call your attention, if you go to the asset store and you look for Kainos, C-A-I-N-O-S, if you're looking for assets, because again, at least the first version, and these things are sort of always placeholder assets, if you like. Let's see, we'll go here, assets, 2D, and I like to look for, of course, the free assets. And I found, I need to open this, make this bigger. Sort, relevance, popular, price low to high. So it's good to find free. Pixel Fantasy Caves. So let's see. Search. Look for Kainos. And you'll see Kainos' pixel art platformer, village props, and art pack, RPG. And then he's got a bunch for sale as well. It's really reasonably inexpensive. But I grabbed village props. I'm going to build my new tree game based on this this little thing here, and maybe I'll call out some interesting ideas as I come across them as well. Um, If the Discord stream quality is not great, then perhaps the Twitch might be better. It's hard to say. I am in the I'm uploading. I am uploading everything twice, I suppose. I'll try to. All right. So look for Twitch eraser mice, and you'll find that. So I've imported these settings here, and you'll find them like I have them in the Kainos directory, Pixel Arts Platformer, and I didn't import the scenes, I didn't import the other stuff. I just want the textures. I just want the graphics. So please don't import lots and lots of scenes. Don't pollute your project space all that much. Try just to get the things that you're interested in. And for now, especially, like here, there's lots of graphics and things. So let's just go, maybe I have to clean out some of these afterwards. So I'm going to create a thing to drop and a thing to catch. All right, so they happen to have this bag, which is awfully nice. And we're in the scene, go to main camera, and grab that scene. And we will call this, it's called a gunny bag, I guess. Gunny bag there. I don't know what that means. My apologies if it means something weird and I just don't realize it. But there it is. There's my gunny bag. And I'm going to catch it in this bucket. So I'm going to put the bucket there in this scene, and I'm going to make the bucket bigger. Make the bucket 3 or 2.5 because that's all right. Now, so I'm going to have a bag. It's going to drop in the bucket. All right, so bag, and we'll call this yeah, bucket. There's going to be another bucket. I'm going to be running into weird things. All right, so the bag, the bucket. The bag needs to obviously have, because since we want it to drop, we need to have a rigid body 2D on it. Okay, and we need to have a collider. So we're going to use a circle collider 2D and a rigid body 2D. And the bucket is just going to have a box collider 2D on it. Right? So if I start the scene, the bag falls and drops onto the bucket. Okay? Easy enough. Let me make sure. All right, so bag drops onto bucket. All right. Now, I have a decision to make. So the decision is, okay, which of these things is going to have a script on it? Do both of them wind up with a script on it or not? I'm going to go ahead and say that the bag is going to, because the bag needs a little bit more flexibility, right? The bag needs to potentially destroy itself when it crosses a line, and it's going to have to do one thing when it hits that. And so I get the feeling that having a script for the bag makes sense, right? So I'm going to go ahead, grab the bag, add a component, and I'm going to say bag behavior. And this should be capitalized. And the one thing to be careful of is always, once it's named this, it's sort of named this, right? That name is ultimately, we're going to see bag behavior here, hopefully. Hello, bag behavior. Where are you? There it is, bag behavior. And you'll see that the name here, the name of the class, is the same as the name of the file. If these don't match, you will run into problems. All right. So, in the stream, I've started from scratch. So, you didn't have to be anywhere before here. So, but we have a script with the bag and nothing but a collider on the basket. All right, so we have our bag behavior. And what we want to do is say, all right, in the case if the bag hits the bucket, that's the idea. We can say on collision enter 2D, something is going to happen. We could say print I collided. All right. So if I come to the game here, and I press play, and I watch the console, boom, I collided. The moment it touched, it collided. All right. So maybe the thing I want to have it do is I want it to destroy itself, perhaps. All right. So we would say here, destroy game object. Now, by saying destroy game object, that's saying destroy the game object that this script is attached to. Not the one I collided with, but the one that I am attached to. So this is bag behavior. It's on the bag. The bag is the thing that's going to be destroyed. Come back over here. I'm getting a notification, I think. Boom, the bag gets destroyed. You'll notice it's out of the scene, everything in the inspector, it all went away. Okay. If I hit come back to the scene, it's all back. All right, so now I'm going to want to do more interesting things here. All right, so let's do this. We're going to say, all right, in our canvas, in our scene, I'm going to go ahead and say, I need some UI elements. I need text. That's going to be my score. Okay. By default, it just put down there in the corner. That's fine. And so I'm going to need something that's going to be in charge of the score here. All right. Normally, I would now say, okay, well, let's do something with the player. But imagine I could come to the bag behavior, and now I could right here say game object dot find score, and in order to use the UI system here, I'm going to have to say using Unity Engine UI, right? Let's do that. Score, get component. And we're going to get the text component. And we want the text field of that text component. And for that, we're going to just say some number, right? Because nobody is really keeping track of the score just yet, right? So I can't set it to 1, so I'd have to say 1. Can I say 1.toString? Guess I can't do that. Oh, I can. There we go. All right, it is an int.toString, right? I thought I could do that. So I come over here, I hit play. Now, one thing I'm going to recommend, because this is what actually, you see, changed to 1 over there now. Save, and save often. This is what burnt me before. So, all right, so now the bag drops, hits the basket, and the score changes. All right? Pretty simple. Bag drops, score changes. So, things that aren't happening yet. I only have one basket, I have one bag, I have a hard-coded score. So things I need to do, something has to be able to spawn the baskets. That's the enemy that's going to go across on the screen. Something needs to control the baskets. That's going to be the player. Right? So I have the enemy up here, and I have the player down at the bottom taking care of things. All right, so first things first, I'm going to go ahead and create the enemy. All right. So let's start off with, we're going to go back to our Kanos assets here, because they happen to be, this is the one that inspired me for this, actually. They have this wonderful Scarecrow here. So, main camera, Scarecrow, and we'll just name him Scarecrow. And we'll start the Scarecrow over at 0, and it's going to be at, what, 3 in the scene. All right, so it's right smack in the middle. And I'm going to move it around just a little bit. I'm going to say, if I move it all the way over to here, 7.75 is that side, negative 7.75, and then positive 7.75 is over here. So I'm going to move this thing. I want to get to move between 7.75 and negative 7.75, and then change directions. Okay. So we'll go ahead and start at the center. And now our Scarecrow, we're going to say add component. Scarecrow is going to need a behavior. So Scarecrow behavior, right? This is, our enemy is an AI, right? It is not reacting according to physics. It is actually, it has knowledge. It says, okay, this is what I am going to move. This is my range of motion, right? So that's what it's going to do. All right. And we'll check out our Scarecrow behavior. So we're going to say transform, whoops, and moving is something I like to use this translate function. Okay, translate means move something by a certain amount. It wants a vector 3 as the translation. So I'll say new vector, and I can do a vector 2. All right, and I just have to decide now, what are these two values? I should have done that. That was nasty. All right. I need an x and I need a y. Now, I really don't need a y because I'm not going to be changing that. What I need is the x. So what is x going to be? How much am I going to translate? Okay, speed is how much I want it to move. Basically, I'm going to have some speed. It's going to be, what, meters per second, right? So I've said 3 meters per second. Now, I've got the meters part, so I could, okay, let's set it to 3 meters per second. So up here, I'm going to say public speed equals 3. Okay. And F is a public float speed. There, that's better. All right, so public speed. All right, we've got a question. All right, now, this in and of itself is not going to be good because this is in some frames per second, so this would be way too fast. This is not going to give me 3 meters per second. I have to convert to figure out how many fragments or fractions of a second I have. And the way I do that is I say speed times time dot, whoops, time dot delta time. Okay. That gives me my scaling factor to turn this into an actual distance, right? Because this is fragments of a second. So this is meters per second times seconds, basically. So now it's going to be meters. So I have a translation, which is moved by a certain amount. Right. Now, back to the game. Save, and you'll see the skeleton starts to move. And the skeleton's going to move off the edge, which is no good. So we want to somehow get the skeleton to stay, a scarecrow to stay on the screen. Simplest way to do that, say, okay, if the x value crosses some boundary, then we want the speed to be one thing, to be set to something. Else, if transform dot position dot x is less than negative 7.75, the other side, then speed has to be set to something. Boy, IntelliSense is just doing all kinds of stuff to me today. All right, that should be position. All right, so there's one way of doing it. So what happens if it goes too far to the right? I know I want the speed to become negative, to go in the opposite direction. So speed should be negative to move it to the left. Right. So here I would say speed equals what? I need to take the absolute value and multiply that by -1 to get a negative speed for sure. Right? I could say speed, well, I'd say math f dot, I would say this. Can I do that? No. I thought maybe. You were learning something new. Math f dot abs. Since it's a floating point number, I was like, oh, man, maybe I could do that. But maybe not. Speed. So that would give me just the speed. Okay. My mind with rigid body 2D, a collider 2D, basket with a collider 2D, and a collision matrix properly set, but they don't seem to follow any physics. So, all right. Double check this. Okay. What you may need to do, one thing that this assumes is that gravity is pointing down. All right. So double check this. If you think you have everything working, or it looks like it should be working, but gravity just does not. Gravity doesn't act on anything. Go to project settings, and this will show up on another monitor. We'll go over here, and we'll make sure that negative 9.81, that is set for gravity. If gravity is set to 0, 0, gravity, your rigid body 2Ds aren't going to do anything. Okay, so double check that. That's one good thing to double check. Yeah, I'm not using anything with the matrix yet on this particular example. Gravity's good. Mines are dropping, but simply passes on top of the other. So the two do not collide. All right. Rigid body 2D, collider 2D, basket with a collider. That certainly sounds correct. So let me Let me click on what I have here and you can double check. So here's the bag. The bag has a rigid body 2D. It is a dynamic, that's why it falls, right? Dynamic, just everything is default here. And the circle collider, you can double check to make sure, is the circle collider big enough? Is it there? So you can check that, right? And then if we check the bucket, right, there's the bucket. It has a box collider on it. We can see the extents. We could edit them if we wanted to. Double check your positions. Now, I've never... What happens if I set the -10? That's still working for me. I was going to try to remember it. That should... Gravity is good, mines are dropping, but simple struggling. Okay, I would try to do it again. Follow the steps that I just did. Try to do it from scratch. I mean, there's nothing fancy really. You know, I put what else wouldn't be? Well, make sure if you're do this, go to project settings and make sure that in physics 2D, set these all to be, you know, don't turn any of them off. First off, because this is really the thing that normally is setting what can pass over one another, right? This is the one that controls how the physics interaction happens, right? So always leave modifying that for last. That'd be one thing to try. They are all on. Do this. We could do this, and if it's okay with you, go ahead, push your project up. And would it be okay if I could either... I'll pause the recording, and I will... That's what we're going to do. We're going to pause the recording and come back, and I'm going to look specifically at Chua Hong's thing. So, okay, back in a minute.